In Arthur Harrison's world, everything ran like a high-end Swiss watch. His life was a perfectly timed operation of stock tickers, acquisitions, and board meetings. But one Tuesday morning, for the first time in 5 years, a gear slipped. There was a silence, where there should have been the quiet hum of work. His maid, Maria, was late, and he was about to find out why. For 5 straight years, Maria was practically invisible. She was a constant, a given, as reliable as the sunrise. She'd arrive at 7 a.m. on the dot and leave at dusk. The only trace she left behind was the scent of lemon polish and the gleam on his marble floors. Arthur never really saw her, he just saw the perfect order she created. But today, the ghost in his machine was a no-show. 7 a.m. passed, then 8 a.m. Arthur's jaw tightened. He paced his massive living room, annoyed. This man ran a global empire, built on one single principle: punctuality. A late employee wasn't just an inconvenience. It felt like a personal insult, a crack in the very foundation of his orderly world. He dialed her number. It rang and rang, then went to a generic voicemail. He tried again and again. With each unanswered call, his irritation grew. Who did she think she was? Just not showing up without a word? It was unprofessional. In his world, people were replaceable parts. Efficiency was everything. Maria had just broken the contract. Fueled by a cold anger he told himself was a sense of duty, he made a snap decision. He wasn't going to have his assistant handle this. This felt personal. He grabbed his car keys, his mind made up. He wasn't driving to her house out of concern. He was going there for an explanation. He needed to fix this glitch in the system, and he was going to get his answer one way or another. As the GPS in his luxury car guided him away from the manicured lawns and glass towers of his neighborhood, the city began to change. Polished avenues gave way to cracked pavement. The quiet hum of wealth was replaced by the noisy, chaotic sounds of a world he'd spent his entire life trying to leave behind. Buildings huddled together, their brick faces looking tired and worn. This was Maria's world. The difference between his life and this one hit him like a physical blow. His penthouse apartment could have swallowed this entire city block. His anger started to fade, replaced by a strange, uncomfortable feeling. He was an outsider here, a tourist in the land of day-to-day survival. He parked the gleaming car, which looked completely alien on the narrow street, and instinctually locked it. He found the address, a rundown walk-up with peeling paint and a broken front door. The hallway smelled of old cooking and dampness. Climbing the creaking stairs, his expensive shoes felt loud and clumsy. He reached her apartment, 3B. The door was slightly ajar. He hesitated, his hand hovering. That cold anger was completely gone now, replaced by a quiet, sinking dread. From inside, he heard a faint, weak cough. He knocked lightly. When no one answered, he pushed the door open. The apartment was tiny, barely the size of his walk-in closet. It was spotless, but everything in it was worn out, frayed, or faded. And there, on a threadbare sofa covered with a patched-up blanket, sat Maria. She wasn't in her neat uniform. She was holding a little boy, rocking him gently. The boy's face was pale, his breathing was shallow, and a damp cloth was on his forehead. Maria looked up, and for the first time, Arthur didn't see his mate. He saw a woman, terrified and exhausted. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and there was no defiance in them, just a deep, soul-crushing weariness. "Mr. Harrison," she whispered, her voice cracking. He stood frozen in the doorway as his world of spreadsheets and stock prices simply dissolved. "Maria, what is this?" he asked, his voice much softer than he'd intended. "Why didn't you call?" Tears streamed down her face. "My son, Marco, he's sick. Very sick. The doctor said he needs a surgery. A surgery I can't afford." She hugged the boy tighter. "I was going to call, sir, I promise. But I was trying to sell the few things I have, my mother's ring. Anything. I couldn't leave him, and I couldn't call you to ask for money. It's not my place." The pride in her voice, even in this moment of total desperation, struck him harder than any business loss he'd ever had. She cleaned a palace of unbelievable wealth 6 days a week, a place where the cost of spilled champagne at one of his parties was more than her monthly salary. And yet she was too proud to ask for help. In that small, heartbreaking room, Arthur saw something his money had hidden from him for years: the quiet, powerful courage of a mother's love. He looked from the sick little boy back to Maria, and in that one moment, the man who built an empire on cold, hard logic felt his entire worldview shatter. His anger, his annoyance, it all twisted into a deep, burning shame. He saw himself for who he had become, a man who was so wrapped up in his own wealth that he was completely blind to the real struggles of the people who made his life possible. Maria wasn't just an employee. She was a mother, fighting a battle he couldn't even have imagined. He'd been irritated about his morning routine being disrupted, while she was terrified of losing her child. He felt sick at his own pettiness. He had come here to scold a worker. Instead, he was witnessing a level of strength and dignity that made his own life feel utterly empty and pointless. He had everything, and yet he had nothing. Maria had nothing, but she was fighting for the only thing that truly mattered. If you believe a single moment of empathy can change a life forever, take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the power of kindness. Arthur's voice, when he finally spoke, was almost unrecognizable to himself. It was quiet and thick with an emotion he hadn't felt in decades. "Maria," he said, taking a step into the room, "you're not selling anything. Do you understand?" He pulled out his phone, his fingers moving with a new kind of urgency. He didn't call his assistant. He called his personal doctor. "I need the best pediatric surgeon in the country," Arthur said, his voice firm, now using his power to heal instead of to profit. "And I need them now. Price is not an object." He arranged for an ambulance to take Marco to the best private hospital in the state. He looked at Maria, whose face was a mixture of stunned disbelief and flickering hope. "You will not work for the next 6 months, he told her, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You'll stay by your son's side and you'll receive your full salary. This is not a loan. It's not charity. It's what should have been done all along." But he didn't stop there. The next day, he called an emergency board meeting and announced the creation of the Hardison Foundation for Employee Welfare. It was a multi-million-dollar fund to provide emergency medical care, housing assistance, and educational grants for every single person at his company, from the top executives to the cleaning crew. He told them that real wealth wasn't just a number on a balance sheet. It was the well-being of the people who built the company. Weeks later, a healthy, laughing Marco chased a ball in a small, sunny yard. Arthur hadn't just paid for the surgery. He'd moved Maria and her son into a new, safe home near good schools. He visited them often, not as a boss, but as a friend. He learned the boys' favorite superhero and listened to Maria's stories, finally seeing the strong and vibrant woman who had been there all along. The change in Arthur was real. His office, once a cold monument to success, became a place where people were treated like human beings. He learned the names of his staff and asked about their families. He discovered that the connections he built with people were far more valuable than any contract he could ever sign. He had left his home that morning to find out why his maid was late. He ended up finding his own humanity. He learned that the true measure of a person's wealth isn't what they have in the bank, but what they're willing to give from the heart.